Warning: the following content includes real court documents from the Jeffrey Epstein investigation and references to abuse. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. This program relies on publicly available court documents and witness testimony. The inclusion of a name in legal filings or discussion does not imply guilt or criminal conduct. All individuals are presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty in a court of law. Allegations are reported here for informational purposes only.
Welcome to Chapter 2 of The Unredacted Truth Behind the Epstein Files. Part 1, Courtroom Drama Unfolds. Chapter 2 is going to begin with the grand jury proceedings that led to Jeffrey Epstein's first indictment by Palm Beach County and the journey that preceded it. We're going to listen to lead detective Joseph Recarey's cross-examination. We will meet the head prosecutor and lead investigator Asa Lana Belolavec and her approach handling the case. We will also be listening to victim testimonies about their encounters and introduction to Jeffrey Epstein. Keeping in line with the protagonist of this series, we will dive into Chapter 4 of Virginia Roberts' memoir and hear her recounts her first visit to the infamous Palm Beach mansion. After being lured away from Mar-a-Lago by Ghislaine Maxwell with false promises. And then listen to the other victims as they recount their experience with Jeffrey Epstein through depositions and statements to law enforcement. We've heard the predator speak. We've heard the version filtered through the gatekeepers of information. Now it's time to hear the victim's account, told in their own words through depositions and statements to police. You are about to listen to the cross-examination of Detective Officer Joe Recarey of the Palm Beach Police Department. But before we move on to the grand jury trial, let's take a moment to hear the events that lead up to the grand jury in the words of Officer Joseph Recarey, as per his investigative notes. Please note that while the voices you hear are AI-generated, every detail is drawn directly from official court files and documents. I am not here to sensationalize, but to inform. This series is produced for public awareness, transparency, and journalistic integrity. The material of this episode may be disturbing or upsetting, including references to abuse and institutional failures. If you are a survivor of abuse, or if this subject matter may be triggering, please listen with caution.
A grand jury session was requested during the month of February 2006, in which all the girls that had been interviewed would have been called to testify before the grand jury to seek an indictment against Jeffrey Epstein. Due to subsequent meetings with the state attorney's office and defense attorney Alan Dershowitz, the grand jury was postponed until a later time. Dershowitz had provided a package of material on the main victims in this case, in which they appear on myspace.com and speak about alcohol use and some marijuana use. The state attorney's office wanted time to review the material. I requested additional subpoenas from the state attorney's office, in which I also requested information from Dollar, Rent a Car, and Jet Aviation. The information requested from Dollar Rent a Car was for the rented vehicle by Alfredo Rodriguez, while under the employ of Epstein for one of the victims. The other subpoena requested was for Jet Aviation for dates and times when Epstein's planes were in Palm Beach County. I continued to research other names that were acquired, either from interviews or intelligence gathered during the investigation. I then learned from the original victim the defense attorney had learned of her identity. I spoke with the father of the victim, who stated there has been a private investigator on his house photographing his family and chasing visitors who come to the house. He provided a Florida license of E794EH. This vehicle is registered to Ivan Robles of West Palm Beach. Robles is a private investigator intern who is licensed by the state. I informed the state attorney's office of the above information. I received the grand jury subpoenas to be delivered to 3 victims for a grand jury session to be held on April 18th through April 20th, 2006. The grand jury subpoenas were personally served to the individuals they were issued to. On April 5th, 2006, at approximately 7:30 p.m., I personally served the parents who informed me that the private investigators were still photographing the family. On April 10, 2006, at approximately 2:30 p.m., I served the next victim at her residence. The subpoena was given to her mother. I learned through the victim that she was personally contacted through a source that has maintained contact with Epstein. The source assured her she would receive monetary compensation for her assistance in not cooperating with law enforcement. She also stated she was told, "Those who help him will be compensated, and those who hurt him will be dealt with." I told her that tampering with a witness or victim is an arrestable offense and very serious. I asked her who approached her during this encounter. Originally, she was reluctant to provide the name of the person who approached her to offer her not to testify because she felt they were still friends. On April 11, 2006, Detective Dawson and I traveled to Tallahassee, Florida, and met with the victim, a white female. She identified the person who approached her in Royal Palm Beach while she was home during spring break in March 2006. She also stated she did not want to pursue the intimidation charges on them and was concerned that the defense attorney was given a copy of the report as certain things she had told me in confidence were repeated to her by Stephen Beale. Prior to our departure, the victim was given a copy of her subpoena for the grand jury, which was scheduled to commence April 18, 2006. Upon our return from Tallahassee, I notified the state attorney's office of what was told to me. I also notified them that the subpoenas were delivered to the witnesses, and they would be calling for arrangements for the date and time needed for the grand jury. I spoke with ASA Weiss and informed her of the possible intimidation by the defense. On April 13th and April 14th, 2006, I attempted contact on several occasions with ASA Weiss and ASA Belalavic to ascertain when the victims needed to report for grand jury testimony. Messages were left on their voicemail. On April 17, 2006, during the hours of 9 a.m. and 11:30 a.m., I again left messages for ASA Weiss and ASA Belalavic for either of them to return my call, as I had not heard from the state attorney's office as to the time and date of the grand jury. At approximately 12:30 p.m., I went to the state attorney's office and located ASA Weiss and ASA Belalavic in their offices. I entered ASA Belalavic's office, who informed me that she was going to return my call. She explained that an offer was made to the defense, Attorney Guy Fronstein and Attorney Alan Dershowitz. The offer is 1 count of aggravated assault with intent to commit a felony, 5 years probation, with adjudication withheld. Epstein would have to submit to psychiatric sexual evaluation and no unsupervised visits with minors. When asked about all the other victims, ASA Belalavic stated that was the only offer made as to one victim. ASA Belalavic's cell phone rang and went to voicemail. She checked her voicemail and played the message on speaker. The caller identified himself as Fronstein, stated in the message. He spoke with his client, Jeffrey Epstein, and agreed to the deal. Fronstein asked to call off the grand jury as they would accept this deal. Belalavic stated probable cause would be needed to book Epstein in the county jail and would let me know as to when it would be needed. I explained my disapproval of the deal and not being consulted prior to the deal being offered. However, I expressed that was only my opinion, and the final approval would come from the chief of police. She explained to have Chief Ryder call Barry Krischer about the deal. I left the area and returned to the police station, where I briefed the chief about the deal offered. I checked my voicemail messages and discovered a message from the stepmother of one of the victims. She was calling because the state attorney's office still had not returned any of her calls as to when they are needed for this case. I then called ASA Belalavic's office and left messages for her to call the victims on this case and explain to them what the state attorney's office had done. On April 17, 2006, at approximately 4:30 p.m., State Attorney Investigator Tim Valentine called to officially notify me of the cancellation of the grand jury. He requested I contact the victims that had been served to appear to notify them of the cancellation. I advised Valentine that as this grand jury session was called based on the state attorney's office decision to have the victims heard by the grand jury, that I felt it was the state's attorney's office responsibility to contact the victims and advise them of the reason they were no longer needed. As I had not received any contact from anyone at the state attorney's office, on May 1, 2006, I prepared 3 arrest warrant requests and submitted them to the state attorney's office. The packages were delivered to the Crimes Against Children Unit in care of ASA Lana Belolovec. Jeffrey Epstein's arrest warrant was requested for 4 counts of unlawful sexual activity with certain minors and 1 count of lewd and lascivious molestation. Sarah Kellen, Epstein's assistant's arrest warrant request was for 4 counts of principal in the first-degree unlawful sexual activity with certain minors and 1 count of principal in the first-degree lewd and lascivious molestation. The receipt of delivery was signed and brought back to the Records Division at the Police Department. On May 3, 2006, at approximately 2:54 p.m., I received a telephone call from ASA Dahlia Weiss on my cellular telephone. ASA Weiss advised she has been taken off the Jeffrey Epstein case because her husband is employed with attorney Jack Goldberger. Attorney Goldberger is the attorney of record for Jeffrey Epstein. His previous attorney, Guy Fronstein, has been fired from representation. ASA Lana Belolovec has been assigned the case. ASA Weiss stated she can no longer speak about the Epstein case with me. I thanked her for her telephone call. ASA Weiss further stated that ASA Belolovec would be calling me. On May 10, 2006, information was received that Epstein's associate, Leslie Wexner, CEO of the Limited Inc.'s plane, had arrived in West Palm Beach. PBIA. The plane is a Gulfstream 4 bearing a N900 LS registration, was on the tarmac at Galaxy Aviation. As Epstein had recently acquired the services of a new attorney, and the fact that Epstein's house is currently under remodeling, it was believed that Epstein may be in Palm Beach. I conducted physical surveillance at the residence, 358 El Brillo Way. I observed a large construction crew conducting remodeling at the house. The contractor was observed driving a Ford Explorer, white in color. The vehicle has a Florida registration. He left Epstein's house and traveled north on County Road. Detective Caristo and I conducted surveillance on him. He traveled to several construction sites and checked on certain jobs. Surveillance was discontinued on him, and Detective Caristo and I traveled to Galaxy Aviation. I observed the white plane with a blue stripe along the body and tail of the plane. The tail number was visible on the bottom of the tail, closer to the body of the plane. We maintained visual surveillance on the plane until 4:57 p.m., when a caravan of Cadillac Escalades drove onto the tarmac. We observed several people exit the vehicles and discovered that they were part of the executive team for the Limited Inc. The executives were in Palm Beach County for an executive meeting for the day. They arrived in Palm Beach County on May 9, 2006 at 9:30 p.m. and were scheduled to leave on the 10th at 5 p.m. On May 12, 2006, I met with ASA Lana Belolovec at the state attorney's office. She explained that her boss, Barry Krischer, was requesting this case be taken to the grand jury again. I explained to her I had requested arrest warrants for Jeffrey Epstein and Sarah Kellen. I asked that she either issue the warrants or directly file, as so much time has elapsed since the original request to the grand jury. I explained that the Palm Beach Police Department had concluded the case in December of 2005 and has been waiting for the case to go forward. Belolovec stated the original offer was again offered to the new defense attorney. She was waiting for their answer by Friday, May 19, 2006. She stated she would advise me of the answer. On May 22, 2006, I received several phone calls throughout the day from the father of a victim who stated he had been followed aggressively by a private investigator. He stated that as he drove to and from work and running errands throughout the county, the same vehicle was behind him, running other vehicles off the road in an attempt not to lose sight of his vehicle. I explained to him, as Mr. Epstein had retained new legal counsel, it was possible it would be new private investigators following him to observe his daily activities. I also explained to him that there was a meeting scheduled with ASA Lana Belolovec and attorney Jack Goldberger at Mr. Krischer's office was scheduled on June 1, 2006 at 9 a.m. I attempted to call ASA Lana Belolovec to inform her of the private investigators following the victim's father. She was on her vacation during the week of May 22nd through May 30th, 2006. On May 23rd, 2006, I received other phone calls from him and his wife who advised they were able to acquire the private investigator's license plate information. The subject following them was again driving very aggressively and caused his wife off the road. She stated, the vehicle is a green Chevy Monte Carlo bearing Florida tag 135 XGA. The vehicle is registered to Zachary Beshard of Jupiter, Florida. Beshard is employed with Candor Investigations from Jupiter, Florida. Beshard is a licensed private investigator in the state of Florida. Since the discovery of the threat made against one of the victims in this case, I requested subpoenas for all calls made to and received from victim during the month of March 2006 for her cell phone and home phone. I had confirmed with Florida State University the exact dates of spring break for 2006. The spring break was from March 4th, 2006 through March 12th, 2006. I received a subpoena from Sprint, Nextel, with all calls made during the month of March 2006. I reviewed the 989 calls made and received during the month of March 2006. I observed on March 7, 2006, she made and received 35 calls during that day in seconds, inbound or outbound calls and calls made to or from a phone number connected to Epstein. On March 7, 2006, at 11:03 a.m., it made a call to the victim which lasted 492 seconds, 8 minutes and 2 seconds. The victim then returned the call at 11:16 a.m., which lasted 6 seconds. The victim then made contact with at 11:22 a.m. for 877.2 seconds or 14 minutes and 6 seconds. These sequences of calls were consistent with what the victim had described to me on the date of the intimidation. Immediately after speaking with the victim, she makes a call to Sarah Kellen, Epstein's assistant, which lasts for 48 seconds. A call is then received from a telephone number registered to a corporation affiliated with Jeffrey Epstein, located at 457 Madison Avenue in New York. An extensive computer check revealed 457 Madison Avenue is a business address in which Epstein has his corporations assigned to. Epstein had corporation attorney Darren Indike register the businesses and register himself as an agent. I also observed Epstein has his El Zorro Ranch Corporation, New York Strategy Group, Ghislaine Corporation, J. Epstein and Company, and the Financial Strategy Group registered to this same address. Finally, a third call is received by the victim at 12:02 p.m. from the same corporate number, which lasts 12 minutes and 1 second. It should be noted that there is no further contact with either victim during the month of March and April of 2006. I also noted that there was no further contact with Sarah Kellen or Jeffrey Epstein during the remainder of the month of March and April 2006. On June 1, 2006, ASA Lana Belolovec telephoned me to inform me of the meeting that occurred with attorney Jack Goldberger and her reference to this case. She advised she would make her determination on whether to file on this case or not by Monday, June 5, 2006. On June 29, 2006, I had spoken to ASA Lana Belolovec, who informed me that the case would be sent to the grand jury for charges. She informed me that the grand jury would convene on July 19, 2006, to hear the Epstein case. Belolavik stated that State Attorney Barry Krischer made the determination to go to the grand jury to hear the case. On July 12, 2006, I spoke with a mother of the victim who inquired about the status of the case. I explained to her that I was told we would be going to the grand jury during the week of July 19, 2006. She stated she had not been contacted as of yet by the state attorney's office for any information. I provided her with the telephone numbers to the state attorney's office. On July 18, 2006, I received a grand jury letter to appear before the grand jury on July 19, 2006, in reference the Jeffrey Epstein case. On July 19, 2006, I responded to the grand jury room and testified before the grand jury. At the conclusion, ASA Belolavik stated the grand jury returned with a true bill for felony solicitation of prostitution. On July 25, 2006, Epstein turned himself into the county jail and was released on a $3,000 bond. Epstein is to return for arraignment on August 25, 2006 at 8:45 a.m. Attention police clerks. Please show this case cleared by arrest with the arrest of Jeffrey Epstein, white male, born January 20, 1953.
The date, Wednesday, July 19, 2006. The time, 9:14 a.m. The place, Grand Jury Room, Palm Beach County Courthouse. Today, we have the prosecution represented by lead attorney Lana Belolavik and Assistant State Attorney Mary Ann Duggan. Witnesses include Officer Joe Riccari, Chief Investigator Jensen Ross, Officer Gregory Parkinson, and 2 minor victims. As the proceedings begin, Ms. Duggan swears in Officer Joe Riccari, who affirms to tell the truth. Detective Riccari introduces himself and explains his role in the Special Investigations Unit. He details the long-term investigations he handles, including financial and white-collar crimes. The case number 050368 came to his attention in September 2005, previously handled by Detective Michelle Pagan. A phone call from a concerned parent at Palm Beach High School initiated the investigation regarding her daughter. The parent suspected her daughter was involved in sexual activity with a man in Palm Beach, leading to a fight at school. Detective Riccari confirms the minor victim was rumored to have engaged in sexual acts for money, sparking the altercation.
Detective Riccari, could you introduce yourself, please?
My name is Detective Joe Riccari with Palm Beach Police Department.
Okay, what is your position there?
I am a detective in the Special Investigations Unit.
What do you investigate in special investigations?
Long-term investigations, financial crimes, white-collar crimes, just about any crimes.
Okay. Ones that are going on for a long period of time, though, usually?
Correct. Long period.
Not a murder that happened last night?
Right.
Okay. Did you become involved in an investigation under case number 0500368?
That is correct.
When did you become involved in this?
In September of 2005.
Okay. Was there another detective investigating this case before then?
That is correct. Her name was Michelle Pagan.
Okay. And she, at some point, turned it over to you?
That is correct.
Have you familiarized yourself, either speaking with Detective Pagan or going through her reports as to what was done when she was the detective on the case?
Yes, I have.
Okay. How did this case come to the attention of the Palm Beach Police Department?
On March 14th, 2005, a phone call was received from a parent at the Palm Beach High School who felt that there was some sexual activity had occurred with her daughter.
Okay. And who was her daughter?
Her stepdaughter.
Okay. What did the parent think was going on?
What had occurred was that her stepdaughter had gotten into a fight at the high school, and subsequently, after the fight, they discovered $300 in her purse. When questioning the $300, she had told him that she had received it from a man in Palm Beach.
Okay. Did the mother also overhear a conversation where they were talking about sex? That her daughter might have accepted money for having sex with the man?
Yes, that is correct. She had some kind of sexual activity with a man in Palm Beach.
And was paid for it?
Correct.
Okay. Was Detective Pagan able to find out the circumstances about why the fight occurred?
It was rumored that she had slept with a man in Palm Beach, at school.
She being.
The minor victim.
Okay.
Correct.
And she heard the rumor that she was a prostitute, and that's what started the fight?
Correct.
Who did she have the fight with?
A girl by the name of.
Okay, where the fight occurred at school?
Yeah,
Who actually found the money in the purse?
the freshman assistant principal.
How much money was in the purse?
300.
Was Detective Pagan able to interview the minor victim?
Yes,
Where did that occur?
that occurred at the Palm Beach Police Department.
Okay, was the minor victim initially honest with the Detective Pagan?
Originally, she did not tell everything that occurred. It was through a subsequent interview further information was developed.
What did the minor victim tell Detective Pagan initially?
Initially, that she had gone to the house with another girl to pick up monies that were owed to her. When Detective Pagan further questioned her, she explained that she was taken to the house to provide a massage to a wealthy man in Palm Beach.
Okay. She initially denied that, though, and said there was no act on her part between this man and herself.
Correct.
Okay. But she ultimately told them that she went for a massage?
Correct.
To give him a massage?
Correct.
Okay. Did the minor victim discuss with Detective Pagan that what the other girls had told her about going to the house? Like, did you know the other girl was going to bring you here to do a massage and that you were going to get money?
Yes.
What did the minor victim say the other girl explained to her?
Originally, if I can read this. Originally, the first interview was done, I'm sorry, at the high school. She was going to the house to provide the massage. It was offered to her by the other girl to provide the massage to this man, who was later identified as Jeffrey Epstein.
Okay. Did the minor victim admit to Detective Pagan knowing that the other girl worked for this man in exchange for doing sexual favors?
Yeah.
Did she say that she was offered the opportunity to do those, and that's why she went there?
Yes.
Okay. Did Detective Pagan ask the minor victim if ever discussed with the other girl about letting this man know her age?
It was discussed in the ride over that if she was asked her age, to say that she was 18.
Okay. And both girls agreed that she was going to do that if asked?
Yes.
At this point, we're going to ask the minor victim to testify, okay?
Yes.
Please hang around. You're going to testify again in a little bit.
Okay.
Thank you.
What you just listened to was Officer Joe's cross-examination and recounting of the events that happened and some of the frustration he faced trying to get this case investigated and adjudicated the right way. Alexander Acosta was the sacrificial lamb or scapegoat, one may say, who took on the sins of the entire Florida justice system. But as you heard for yourself, others were heavily involved in the non-prosecution of Jeffrey Epstein that allowed for his vile empire to continue functioning for an additional 10, 13 years, and possibly more. Into part 2, the miscarriage of justice continues. We will listen to the victims being cross-examined by Lana Belolovec, the same prosecutor who was handed the case, seemingly for her leniency towards Jeffrey Epstein and the defense. Then we will listen to the words of additional victims through depositions and statements to law enforcement. What I want to achieve with this limited series podcast is to give the victims what they have been asking for, their voices back. And now we get to hear all three sides of the story, engage our critical thinking skills, and hopefully get our follow-up questions answered without the jazz, glitter, or sensationalism. Although minor victim identities remain redacted, I am choosing to hold back all victims' names as I read their words across depositions and investigatory notes. If the words you hear sound like yours and you want to speak out and step forward, that is your choice. And if you choose to leave that chapter of your life in the past and prefer to focus on what can be, not what was, that too is your choice.
Many names will be mentioned. Some we know, others powerful. None of the accused have been charged with any crimes in a court of law, except for Ronald R. Eppinger, Jeffrey Epstein, and Ghislaine Maxwell. Just because someone is mentioned does not automatically mean they were directly involved in any child or human trafficking. Think about it like the Diddy White parties. Some knew, some did not, and others were used as pawns.
This brings us to the conclusion of the episode.
There is so much more to uncover in the Epstein saga. Make sure to like, subscribe, share, and follow if you are tired of the games and just want to get to the unredacted truth.